Warren Fiscal Court, Friday, November 15th, 2019 is now called to order. I want to thank everyone for being here and especially welcome Pastor Scott Jones of the Bowling Green First Church of the Nazarene, who's here with us today to offer prayer for our county and for our nation. And I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the invocation and remain standing afterwards, because I'd like to ask our magistrate from the First District for about 20 years, Doc Kalin, to lead us in the pledge following.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you this morning for everyone gathered here today, and we ask that you would be here with us. Would you help this court to make wise decisions that would be pleasing to you? Would you help them to be able to discuss the matters at hand in a reasonable way and to be willing to give up having their own way if it's contradictory to your way? Thank you, Father, for the time set aside this morning for this court to discuss issues and make decisions that affect Warren County. Would you help this meeting today to be productive? And as is the case in all areas of our lives, would you also help this court to keep you at the forefront of their minds as they do the work set before them today? Father, would you richly bless each and every person who took the time to gather here this morning? And would you allow your hand of protection to be on them all throughout the rest of today and all this week? In God's holy name, I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Here.
Esquire Young.
Here.
Esquire Cummings.
Here.
Esquire McWhorter.
Here.
Esquire Lawrence.
Here.
Esquire Gorman.
Here. Okay. We need to approve the minutes of the fiscal court meeting of November 1st, 2019. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Okay. Next item is to approve a work schedule for the Warren County Road Department. Motion by Squire Young, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
And we need to approve the personnel changes for Warren County. Motion by Squire Payne, second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, before we get into the rest of the agenda, an important thing happened in Warren County this year. The Greenwood girls soccer team are state champions, and I suspect that's the reason every one of you all are here today. But I can tell you, on behalf of all the citizens of Warren County, we're very, very proud of all of you all. Individually and collectively, this is an extraordinary accomplishment. And I'm going to give the privilege of noting each of you. I'd like to have all of you come forward in a few minutes as your name is called, but I'm going to give this the honor of this to the grandfather of one of these girls who played hard and actually may have scored the final goal of the tournament. But I'd like to call Esquire Doc Kalin forward, please, to read the names out. If you want to come up here, you want to do it here?
And
Okay.
we'll have the girls come up as
Okay.
I do that. But it's been a while since I've been in this building. 21 years I sat in that chair over there, and I didn't know that I was going to be asked to do this today. This is an amazing team. This is something that's never happened in this area. You know, they've got a record of 23, 2-3, and I got to apologize about the 3. I was not at those games. They never lost a game that I was at, ever. And
Well, you let us down, Doc.
I guess I'm going to be on the bus next year. So. Not only did they win the district, the region, and the state championship, this team only gave up 1 goal in 9 postseason games.
God.
Over the year, they scored 133 goals, 100 assists, and only 25 goals were scored against them in 28 games.
Wow.
This is amazing for this area. It really is. I'll just let you know the judge asked me to do this because he admitted he knows nothing about soccer.
Well, I could have had a soccer player that took your place on fiscal court do this, but I thought it was appropriate for you to do it.
That's good. It's my pleasure to introduce these wonderful girls that I've enjoyed watching play all year. First, as I call your name, if you'll come up here and we'll have a whole group together. Claire Allen,
Hey, guys.
Ellie Belcher, who, by the way, has signed to play at Western Kentucky University. Maggie Blair, Emily Buser, Hannah Carter, Kaylee Cook, Liz DeMars, Rebecca Roby Dickinson, Anna Drexel, Anna Haddock, who has also just signed to play at the University of Auburn. Aaron Helpsley, Paige Hines, Annabelle Justice, who, by the way, just signed to play with Center College. Allison Kalin. She's the reason I'm down here for the first time in 4 years. Kaylee Maynard, Michaela Mitchell, Sarah Palmer, and Logan Alo Perkins. Katerina Popovic, Ellie Ramsey, Amaya Salvador, Callie Strobe, Kennedy White, Autumn Wiles, and Sarah Wiles. Now, these girls, they played so hard all year, but they did have a little support from a fantastic coaching staff. Goalie and assistant coach Kenny Moore. Is Kenny here? What about David? Is he here? Assistant coach David Parr. And this guy here, believe it or not, it's his first year coaching. And not only that, he won the Coach of the Year for the KHSAA. Head coach Zach Lecker. And behind here is a ton of supporters. That's the cheerleaders right there, and they did a great job all year long, too.
Here, we'd like to get
Here you go, guys. Picture right here.
the Spark Kalen up here, too.
Lay down. Look, where's the oar?
All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, guys.
We got the official photographer in up there.
you all so much. It's just a little something to remember being here and remind you that Warren County, all the people of Warren County are really proud of you. You did an outstanding job all year. And it brings a great deal of notoriety to our community when you win at this level. But it also instills a great deal of pride in everyone who lives in it. Y'all did a great job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Outstanding job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Congratulations again.
Which one is Doc's grandmother? This shoe is right. Okay.
Hey, Mike, one of the real ones.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much for being here. So proud of Allie and of all the girls. Okay. Okay. That's always great to celebrate those big, important events to our school and our community. We're very proud of their hard work, because you don't get there without working hard, practicing hard, and playing hard. And the girls have really done a great job. I think a lot of our schools have improved in multiple sports over the years. They bring a lot of people to our community, and they really make a difference in our economy when they excel like that, because it really does bring people together and brings great notoriety throughout the state and across the nation. And speaking of our economy, I wanted to, I think most of the others here are interested in item number 21, so if there are no objections, I want to move item number 21 up, which is to accept the lowest and best bid from Scotty's Contracting and Stone LLC for the widening of Beach Bend Road in the amount of $351,820. Now, I want to call on Josh Moore, who's going to kind of outline this in a little more detail so that you all understand exactly what's I might want to get are you ready for the lights to go out? Okay. We have a technological difficulty here, or what?
The smart ones can come take
Who's your technology for? Ah,
Clearly, it's user error.
TSO problem.
she knows what she's doing.
She does. Well, we'll go on and get started a little bit. I think everyone knows, based on the agenda item, what we're talking about, and I think everyone's fairly familiar with Beach Bend Park. Facility located in the Beach Bend Road. I put a star on the map so everybody can kind of see where it sits in the vicinity of other areas of Warren County. But since the late 1800s, recreational use. Charles Garvin in the early 40s purchased the facility, began using it as an amusement park, which grew and flourished. And in the early 50s, we opened a drag strip in the location there. kind of moving into more modern current times. In 83, 84, the Jones family, Dallas and his family purchased it, began hosting national drag racing events here in Warren County. And so that is kind of what has begun creating, while we're here having this discussion, is the motorsports aspect of things has grown exponentially. A little more recently, the whole park has been renovated. We've got a water park. We've got improved racing facilities. And so Beach Bend Park is a top tourism destination in the region, if not in the entire state. So with that becomes, challenges and opportunities, depending on how you want to look at them. And what we've seen in the last, let's call it 5 years, maybe call it 10 years, we've had some traffic issues, just as people want to come from other parts of the country and honestly the world to some of the events that are hosted here at Beach Bend. We're seeing delays in accessing the park. We've seen traffic and congestion out on, I'll try to map this so you can see it. This is Louisville Road, Kentucky Street heading this way. Beach Bend Park Road kind of comes in here, or Beach Bend Park Road is here. Beach Bend Road comes in this way. This would be 185 Gordon Avenue going this direction. And really all of those roads listed have seen congestion in some of our larger events. We see problems. This is Garvin Lane coming this direction over to 185. We've had cars backing up as far as 185. Double Springs Housing Authority area over here sees a lot of traffic and just almost gridlock. And sometimes it's for a short period of time, sometimes it's for longer. But that is what kind of began some discussions about what could be done, what options are out there to improve access in and out of the park. And really, before I get into too much about the options that were chosen and of what the actual agenda item is, Bill Tishner from Holly, who LS Fest, which is probably our largest event that's being currently hosted at the park. This was his brainchild, and I think he would like to maybe make a few comments and show you a few things just from a first-hand perspective of what he's seen and some of the limitations that we have currently. And then also we've got members from the Convention and Visitors Bureau who may want to speak a little bit about the economic impact of what Beach Bend Park and the events have done for the area, as well as maybe even give us a preview of some things that are coming. So after that, I'll get back up and give you a little more discussion about this actual agenda item and what the plan is currently. Do it again. If you want, you can just, just the right button. You're good.
So as Josh said, ooh, that's loud, sorry. I'm Bill Tishner. I'm the Director of Marketing at Holly. And about 10 years ago, we created this new event called LS Fest, Holly's LS Fest. And the LS engine is the engine that was made for the Corvette, which is also here in town in 1997. And then GM started putting it in everything after that. And what's happening is people grab those engines and put them in old cars, new cars, every kind of race car you can imagine. And so for Holly's future, we wanted to be a part of that. We're a very old company, 113 years old. And 10 years ago, we were revitalizing our image. And this event was part of it. And if you come to this event, you will see young people that now know Holly. This year was 35,000 people that came and wanted to be with us in our town, and they absolutely love Bowling Green, and they've absolutely come to love Holly because we put on a great time for them in a hobby that they love and dream about. And so this aerial picture right here was about 2:30 on Saturday this year, and you can see we rent out the theme park because we needed more parking. We opened up what I'll call the farm lot on top of the hill. That's the first time that's ever been done. And, I've known Dallas for 25 years and I've been at Holly, and this is the largest event ever since he's owned the racetrack. And there's always been road problems talked about, and so I was, always the kid going, wait a minute, I can get them in better, faster. We haven't taxed this road yet until now. So I rent out the theme park. I open a farm lot. We park cars in 3 lots at the same time to get them off of that road and to keep them flowing into Beach Bend. The bottleneck is not inside of Beach Bend. That's what I really want to stress to you. I have 25 ticket takers. We get them into these parking lots, and then they walk out, park their car, and go buy a ticket to keep them from backing up on I-65. So this picture right here is over 5,000 cars. I counted them, and this was 2:30, and they kept coming for 2 more hours, solid, bumper to bumper. So we probably had 6,500 cars. And here's the challenge. Every car has to go past one point right before they come into Beach Bend Park. And they all have to pass that one spot when they enter the park, one car at a time. And I went out there and watched, which I've watched for years, because this is my problem and nobody sweats over this more than me. I actually lose sleep over these people coming to this event and worry about their safety and worry about them being dehydrated, sitting in traffic for 3 hours in gridlock. And so I went and watched cars come in, and it's the quickest we can get them in is about 3 seconds per car. And that's ideal. That's if they're rolling 20 mile an hour, 15 to 20 mile an hour, and you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you go much faster than that, we're going to have crashes right at the entrance of the park. And so if you do some quick math, I'll show you. That's just another aerial view. We actually park show cars in the theme park. It's really amazing. I actually hired professional safety and traffic crews from Nissan Stadium and Lucas Oil Stadium and Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And these people have experience putting people into racetracks, but they don't have experience with one lane going into a racetrack. That's our problem, one road. And so we have uncorked Beach Bend Park to put them in that place, trust me. The problem is it's kind of like an hourglass. There's 5 roads in Bowling Green. Everybody's trying to get on that one road at the same time. And it was just mayhem this year. And a lot of people, although we got 35,000 people in the park at this year's event, a lot of people went home. We saw it all over our social media. I sat in traffic for 2-3 hours and left. And they left our town, and that gave us a black eye. It gave Holly a black eye, Beach Bend a black eye, and Bowling Green a black eye. As much as they all love Bowling Green, and they really do. People retire here after going to events at Beach Bend. We got young kids coming to work at Holly because they come to LS Fest and see the excitement and want to be a part of Holly now. So this is just a little bit of my, just a quick example of an hourglass. And, Josh and Greg, the engineers, came up with this idea to give us this third little exit lane. And, I think it's the easiest, simplest, most wonderful, cost-effective way to give me a place that people have to leave, they leave. If I got to get an ambulance out or a fire truck out, they can leave. And then I can run 2 lanes all the way in from the lights and effectively double the amount of cars that I can put in that park at the same time. That was just a video of filming cars. And so here's the simple math that I put together. At 3 seconds a car, 15 to 20 mile an hour, that's 20 cars a minute. 20 cars a minute times 60 minutes, that's 1,200 cars an hour. Now that picture was, over 5,000 cars. If I had 6,500 by the end of the day, at best, that's 5.5 hours. And that's why everybody that came that morning trying to get in the morning, because they want to spend all day with us, they sat in gridlock. And really, 3 seconds is unrealistic because people, they slow down, they want to read a sign, which way do I go? I'm a participant, I got to take a right. I'm a spectator, I got to follow this flagger, and we're really flagging them in as quick as we can put them in that place. But they still want to, they don't know what to do when they arrive, so they slow down. That's kind of as simple as I can put it, and I mention that this is the biggest event ever. This event has grown every year. And it was okay for the first 6 or 7 years, because when it grew 30%, what's 30% of 10,000 people? You know, now we're growing. This year grew 50%. We went from 25,000 people last year to 35,000 this year, because they all leave and they tell their friends, "You got to come see this. You got to come to Bowling Green and come to Beach Bend to LS Fest." And so it's going to get bigger this year. You know, it's never not got bigger. So it's only going to exacerbate the problem. And I left this year going, "Oh boy, what in the world are we going to do?" And because we worked really hard to fix the inside of the park. And luckily, Ron at the chamber, the president of the chamber, he was there and got everybody together that Monday after the event and said, "We got to form a committee because we've got to do something about this." For years I heard about that one-lane road being a problem, and I believe it to some extent, but I also believe there was things we could do in the park. And I worked for years to improve inside the park. Park them in more lots, take tickets, sit twice as many people taking tickets, rent the theme park so they can walk up to the turnstiles and buy their ticket into LS Fest, and then they walk through the theme park into the racetrack. I mean, I have lost sleep over correcting this problem. And it's so big now that I don't know what else more I can correct other than we got to get more cars down to the park, and I'll park them. I will, if I have to hire more people from Nissan Stadium. I mean, I hired probably 40 people. If you saw that original picture, you can see how neatly we park people. That's not a mess. We go out there and chalk it, and we know where every car is going to go when they arrive, and we're not fooling around. I don't know what else to say other than thank you for letting me speak and hearing us out. And I don't want any black eyes on Holly or Bowling Green or Beach Bend. What Beach Bend does not need a big event to get so big that other promoters hear that you can't get people in. Make sure there's nothing else on my notes. And there's not. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bill. Appreciate you.
And again, we look to Bill and his team to be kind of the expert in events. Some of us that went to school to learn about traffic, we don't look at how things function inside a special event very often. So we appreciate Bill and everything that he's provided to us. If anybody has questions for him, we can catch him now, or by all means you can ask him at the end. But if not, I can see if Sherry would like to get up and speak a little bit just about the impact that what we're talking about here could have for this area, and to talk about some upcoming events.
First, thank you all for allowing tourism to tell you how important Beach Bend Park and these events are to our community. To build upon the facts that Josh and Bill have mentioned, our office put together the one-pager that's in front of you on the impact that Beach Bend has on our community every year. Even though these car events only last a day or two, the economic impact created is felt throughout Warren County. Millions are spent in our community by visitors to the park. Those dollars are not made here, but they're left here to circulate in our region. It's imperative that Bowling Green, Warren County maintain its positive reputation in the car event business. Car enthusiasts talk to each other. They network with each other on social media, as Bill mentioned. Right now, our reputation is very favorable in the industry. But if we cannot solve the hours of backup being created, we will lose that favorable opinion and attendees will go elsewhere. This plan is the least intrusive and the least expensive way to get our visitors into the park and free up our major roadways for our local citizens to use as they normally would. And I think Janet's going to come up real quick and just tell you about some of our upcoming events so you know what we're looking at for 2020.
Thank you for this opportunity to be here today and to share this information with you. I have the privilege of working not only with Bill and all of the Holly Group, but I also work with all of the promoters that bring the 13 car events to our community. Bill's event alone for that weekend is a $6.7 million impact on our community. And we also have other events such as the Hot Rod Reunion, the Tri-5, and we've also got another Holly event following up after the LS Fest called the Ford Festival. This year, they joined in with the MMRA, and that event grew this year, and next year it will continue to grow. The Ford enthusiast is getting to see what the LS enthusiast is getting to experience, and this is bringing more and more people into our community. I was in Las Vegas at SEMA last week. I had a meeting with one of the biggest companies called Motor Trend. Several years ago, we had an event here called Power Tour. It's an incredible opportunity for our community. Our name is all over the nation for a period of 2 years. The economic impact with that was just very beneficial to all of us. When I met with them at SEMA last week, I explained to them that there was a possibility that the Beach Bend Road would be expanded, and their words to me were, "You are now a top contender again for us to visit your community." So this is not just one event, it is several events, and I just would like the opportunity to say thank you for your consideration.
Good morning. Ron apologizes he couldn't be with you this morning. He's out of town. But on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, we want to say that we also support this initiative. We are a motorsports town. Back in 2014, along with the CVB, we formed a motorsports committee to continue to grow the presence. And when you look at being the home of the Corvette, the home of Holly Performance Products, and all of the automotive suppliers that we have that have such a huge economic impact and are really the success behind us being the fastest growing community in the Commonwealth, we want to continue that and continue to grow the assets that we have with Beach Bend, with the Motorsports Park out by the Corvette Museum, and being able to solve these problems, as Sherry talked about, and make sure that we maintain our reputation as the car center in the world and a place where people can come. And on behalf of our chamber partnership, when they do come, that impact on our hotels, on our restaurants, on our retailers is huge. And so we ask your support of this project. It's very important to our continued economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, now actually failed, probably my own fault. We probably should have talked about what we're actually planning to do. So, you know, when this, I started working almost 18 years ago, and even at that point, there was a plan discussed through the highway department and others about finding another access to Beach Bend Park. At that time, a lot of what was discussed was a bridge. Somehow we were going to leave, whether it be, you know, somewhere over in the Plum Springs area or somewhere here on Louisville Road, and create another access point, excuse me, into the park. And you know, not that that was a bad idea. The reality of that, though, is that's a $30 million initiative, one that the reality of seeing that come to fruition is fairly slim. We also have looked at options to just widen all of Beach Bend Road, you know, all the way back to the railroad tracks. And that is something that does have some merit as well, but again, that's a very expensive fix, and also one that's going to impact a multitude of properties. And I think everyone in this room, whether you support the project or don't support the project, no one wants to change the character of Beach Bend Road. There's something about Beach Bend Road and the way it looks and feels to everyone that drive down it, whether they live there or whether they're here for a special event. No one wants to change that character. So this option that we're talking about, which is essentially a very limited widening, if I can get the page there. I lost it. Get this way. You wanted to update. What we're talking about is adding a third lane, essentially from Garvin Lane to Beach Bend Park Road. That's kind of what I call the park access road. It's about 1,650 feet, and the thought there was to come in with a 5.5-foot rough widening on each side of the road, which then would allow 2 dedicated in lanes from town into the park and would allow a single lane out. Some limited utility relocation that has to take place to make that happen. And just to go ahead and throw it out there, there is some vegetation and trees that are going to have to be removed. But we've committed as the county to work with the property owners. We will replant. We will come up with something that is acceptable and pleasing looking to everyone out there, because we want that same look to be there 20 years from now. So, you know, we've met, and I want to hit on a little thing that Meredith mentioned. You know, there's a committee formed in 2014 or 15, mainly looking at the economic development side of motorsports. But after this event, the Holly, after the LS Fest this year, there is a new committee that is made up of a lot of the same folks. But that committee is now including city, county, state, engineering and planning staff, as well as law enforcement from the city and the county. And the task of this group is to coordinate these events better. We know that anytime you've got 5+ hours of traffic delay, and we're hoping that this fix may cut that number roughly in half. You know, we shrink the time frame that we've got cars backed up. We know that we've got life safety issues. We've got to get emergency personnel in and out. We need to be able to get people in and out some of the businesses that are located and the residents that are located on this. And, you know, I would be amiss to not state that just building a road improvement is going to fix this project. It's going to fix this matter. It can't. And so, you know, all of these agencies have committed staff and time to meet multiple times throughout a motorsports season to coordinate events. The county is looking at message boards and social media options and even door hangers to allow people that live in this area to know that on this particular date or this particular weekend to expect delays. We've also coordinated with our sheriff as well as city PD to look at having officers at these key intersections, because we're going to have to direct people in and out. We know that if we need to get an ambulance from the medical center there, we need to cut traffic off so that we can get the ambulance or any other emergency services into the park, or to a house. You know, so those things are being considered, and I don't want to let people to miss out on that, because that is a key portion of this working. So a little more detail on the project is, I know it's going to be hard to see, but you're going to get a 3-lane section of road, and you could turn traffic into one way, essentially, into the park at multiple locations. You could do it from Kentucky Street, right here at the railroad tracks. You could come somewhere up near Double Springs and allow it to come in for that, or you may simply just use the section down here at Garvin Lane as 2-lane. It's all going to be dependent on what size of event, what kind of attendance we're anticipating. But the key that I like to think about this is this allows options that we never had. We've never had options and different ways of moving people in and out of the park unless this short section gets this widened portion. So again, you'll see in your memo what we're asking for in the agenda item is a contract to Scotty's. I think you all may know that City County received some discretionary funding from the governor recently to the tune of about $252,500, which will cover the vast majority of this project. I do have it in your memo that, you know, this is a design build type project. So the number that you see is kind of a worst case. We know that some utility costs that were included in that are high, and so we think that that number will come down probably $25,000, $35,000 that you're seeing. So although the contract and the agenda item is for the full amount, I feel very, very confident that that number will be less when we actually get this under construction. So if there's any other questions of me, and I don't know, Mike, if you would like to have any other residents that would like to speak, we can go on and bring them up, or it's the pleasure of the court, I guess, at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, first of all, do any of the magistrates have questions of Josh or of the Beach Bend Park Dallas Jones family, or Mr. Tensioner with Holly, or anyone? Okay. Are there other people here who would like to make comments? Ms. Glasser.
My
How are
name
you?
is Janice Glasser. I'm fine. I'm here on behalf of my daughter. She just built her dream home out on Beach Bend Road and was moving in the weekend of the Holly event. I'm not opposed to the event. We couldn't get to her, but, you know, I understand the need to widen the roads. My concern is her safety. The following weekend in October the 20th, we came out to visit her. She almost got hit head-on by people racing up and down the road. They're not just racing in the park, they're racing up and down Beach Bend Road. And we stood there and watched them, and these people that came in October were really rude. You know, Bowling Green doesn't need a lot of rude people like that. I know the sheriff was called a couple of times, and I asked the sheriff too. I said, okay, what do we do about that problem? Because evidently he didn't have enough people to help with that. And if you're going to do all this, they need to have people patrolling that road. I know when Harley Davidson group was out there, they had state police. They had a lot of patrol. And I'm just really worried about her being out there. My husband lived on Beach Bend Road, grew up out there. He said he'd never seen it like this. And of course, I'm all for fun, and I'm all for them having their great time. And I'm all for Bowling Green growing and prospering. But I do think we need some sheriff support or police, anybody out there to help. And not just at the intersections, it needs to be throughout that road. Because, I mean, they were parking on the side of the road, just goofing off. Not Holly. This was the weekend of the October festivities.
Okay, so this was during that period of time, not during
Yes.
not during the mass entrance, but
No.
just between time? Okay.
No, and this was probably in the afternoon because we had been out of town and we came to see her. And we watched them. I mean, they were just racing up and down the road. They're not in the park racing, they're on the road racing. So that's my big concern. And of course, I don't want to see Beach Bend Road expanded all the way to the railroad tracks. I live on Old Scottsville Road, and I've seen all the apartments that have come out our way and how it has changed our country road. And I hate to see Beach Bend Road be changed.
We do too.
So, have you thought about busing people in? I know a lot of people had to park in town and walk to Beach Bend Park for the Holly weekend.
Really?
Yeah,
That's incredible.
yes. And so I know it's a real problem, and I understand the expansion of the road. I'm just worried that that will not help. I just wish there was another way to get traffic into that park, except in that one spot. And have you thought about a disaster in the park? Heaven forbid. But in this day and age, what if there is a disaster in the park? How are you going to get all those people out of the park at once? Because it will be awful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am. Hi, Ms. Deputy.
Hello. I would just like to address the court and let you know that we are all for the promotion of Beach Bend. And the one big concern that we have is our emergency services, if you do 2 lanes in and 1 lane out. I mean, is it going to take a death? My dad is 82 years old. Right now, we have 5 minutes to the medical center. Those minutes count when it cuts for life.
They do. I agree.
So that's all I have to say.
Yes, sir. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank
Judge. I have to apologize to Doug. I lied to him and Josh. I said I wasn't going to say anything. And I'm not here to complain about the road widening. That's not it. I'm not here and I'm all in favor of Holly. I'm all in favor of Beach Bend. I'm here representing the Bowling Green Country Club. Last year, the reason that this really came to our attention was the BGIT, which is a tournament that's been hosted. It's one of the longest state tournaments or state high school golf tournaments in the state of Kentucky, and it's been at Bowling Green Country Club since the early 90s. So we've been there, it's been there a long time. What happened last year was the tee-offs in the morning, they got there, they couldn't leave when they were finished because I had to pick up my son to get him to leave. And then the ladies that were teeing off at 1 or so that afternoon were being dropped off. Some were being dropped off on Richardsville Road and being asked to carry their bags and walk from Richardsville Road up just to make tee times. Okay, so that's a logistical issue, and that's something that I think now hopefully we can talk about and get planned. But I don't want the fact that LS Fest and all of these things that go on at Beach Bend and the economic impact that brings to Bowling Green to overlook what Bowling Green Country Club brings in as well. State tournament's been at Bowling Green Country Club for 10 plus years, and we've got it for another 5. The BGIT has been there for 30 plus years. The Convention Bureau built a scoreboard at Bowling Green Country Club out of respect for the money that's brought in because of that. Okay, so, you know, this is not a small problem. It's a very large problem. I'm talking with Coach right now to see when we can get this scheduled. But as of right now, he's looking to schedule it, as it's always been, on that same weekend.
Really?
So I'm saying, please, if you can try not to do that, let's try not to do that. But I can't control that, right? Because we're talking to 20 different golf teams from across the state, plus individuals. So it's a big move on our part, too, to try to get that done. So what I'm trying to say right now is we may have this same exact problem next year, so let's start thinking about that now. Let's start planning for it now. And if, God forbid, something happens, not at Beach Bend, where they've got that third lane out now, if this widening goes and then go out that way, we can't get in and out. What happens then if there's a medical emergency at Bowling Green Country Club and it's a parking lot on Beach Bend Road? So I guess that's all I have to say.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dodd? Yes. How are you doing, sir?
I'm Alan Dodd. I've lived on Garvin Lane for 58 years. And before I lived on Garvin Lane, I lived on Beach Bend Road as I was growing up. And I'm opposed to this widening of Beach Bend Road simply because I'm satisfied from experience, my experience, is that adding another lane is going to do nothing except give you more parking spaces to wait to get in the park. You can talk about hourglasses and you can't get in, you can't get out. I understand they didn't even open the gates down there for this last event that caused so much problems until later on in the morning. In other words, they didn't open at 6 o'clock. At 8 o'clock in the morning, it was already backed up to my house on Garvin Lane, which is a half a mile from Beach Bend Road. So adding another lane it isn't going to correct anything. The correction is going to have to come, I think, from the park itself. They've got room to do whatever they need to do, add all the lanes they want to be able to get the people in. But just to add Beach Bend Road is, I think, is not very, doesn't make much sense to me. Now, it might make sense to other people. And I'm for Beach Bend doing well, but I want them to be able to get their customers in. I don't want them parked out in front of my house. And that's exactly what they were doing for that afternoon. It was after 3 o'clock in the afternoon before the last car moved past my driveway so I could get out and go wherever I wanted to go. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. I think the funding that you mentioned, $260,000, I doubt if that would even pay for moving the utilities and buying the right-of-way, much less building the road. But that's not my That's not my area of expertise. Maybe you can get it done for that. But anyway, I just think there was another plan suggested in meetings with you folks prior to now, and I just wonder how much consideration was actually given to that plan. I presume you're aware of that. And
You're talking about the internal plan.
right,
Yes,
the one
sir.
that Mr. Ted Donnelly and others presented.
Right.
I think you should reconsider what you're planning on doing here and think it through a little further, because I don't believe what you're doing is going to correct the situation. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. I appreciate it very much. And many of the, well, all the problems that you all have brought to our attention are things that kind of created the urgency for getting everyone together and determining what a good plan would be. My initial plan, which nobody liked, was to widen Beach Bend Road from start to finish. To begin with, that would have displaced a lot of property, and it would have created even greater intrusion into the lives of a lot more people. This particular plan, when I first heard what they were looking at doing, I said, well, that ain't going to work. And then I looked at it, and I looked at the traffic flow, and I want to apologize to Josh and Greg and everyone who designed this plan. I think it's genius, and I think it provides for the greatest amount of traffic flowing, safer, and at the least amount of expense, and the least intrusive on everyone's lives. The emergency services, we had a problem before. Bowling Green Country Club, that's part of what got my attention. They called me from Bowling Green Country Club. They couldn't get some of their teams there. That's in the old plan. That was in a not so good circumstances that we have right now. This way, where we've engaged law enforcement, city and county law enforcement, and emergency services, they're going to be on the planning committee that will be meeting before every event and discussing exactly how they get these 2 lanes of traffic in, which should, instead of 4 or 5 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon having cars lined up, it should cut the time down at least in half, because we'll have twice as many cars coming in. Now, will some people have to leave their driveways and turn left and go out a different direction? Yes, but those people will enter on a road that's not going to have through traffic coming from the other direction. It will have traffic going only one way, and it'll be able to be eliminated much quicker. But that's only during the period of time while most people are coming in. So we're talking about, really, this plan, even though it sounds like a big plan, it's about 1,650 feet. Is that what you told me, Josh? About 1,650 feet, where we're widening it 5.5 feet on each side. So we're very painfully aware of basically 2 property owners who are going to lose a little bit of the county's right-of-way on the front. We know that there'll be some few trees that are right out that should have been eliminated some time back because they're right on the road anyway and are a safety concern. But we're going to plant additional trees back through there. So as far as the aesthetics of the road, we're really, really aware of how important they are, not only to the residents who live out there, but to creating that character that the visitors have come to expect over the years. This is an important event that brought most of this to our immediate attention. Now, when I say brought it to our attention, we've been talking about this for 20 years, about how to fix this problem. The Jones family well, I started to say they've been very patient. They haven't been very patient. Dallas has been mad at me for years, but and I started to say they've been very understanding. They're not, I think they've been understanding under the circumstances. But it's created a difficulty for them. It's created some animosity from some of the mayors, some of the residents. That's really not their fault. Beach Bend was there before almost everybody. Not everybody, Mr. Dodd. I know that you and there's several families out there that have lived there forever, just since the beginning of Warren County. But the families that live out there, most of them have had close personal connections with Beach Bend Park over the years. And you understand the value that it has to all the citizens of Warren County, not only for the notoriety that it brings to us from all over the country, but for the people it brings in, the people who return if they have a pleasant experience because they visited Beach Bend Park. I consider them a very important industry. They're part of the tourism industry, but they're one of our biggest tourism attractions in this part of the region, for that matter, this part of the state. Holly, of course, has been very active in the community for 100 years, and they've invested a lot of money into and time into growing the tourism business here. They've also invested a lot and brought more jobs in and are growing their business here. And we appreciate that, and we appreciate all you all have done. We appreciate how much work you all went to help us look at the traffic flow and the safety of getting people into Beach Bend Park and down the Beach Bend Road. But the idea of this plan is to disrupt as few square feet of real estate on Beach Bend Road as possible, spend the least amount that makes a difference. And the plan is for this to move people down the narrow Beach Bend Road, which is a one-lane road. It's always been a problem. 15 years ago or so, we started looking at bringing a bridge in from, we even talked to the property owners. We had someone that was willing to allow us access through their property. The cost of that is enormous, and it's just not feasible for us to take that on. And that would be great. And then, as someone else pointed out to me the other day, that also just creates another problem for another area of Warren County that's not used to having the Beach Bend traffic come in. The Beach Bend traffic, and I understand what you were saying about some people spin their tires and drive recklessly, not during these peak periods, but these peak periods where they might be 6 hours, 6, 8, 10 times a year. In the mornings, usually, sometimes stretching into the afternoon. Instead of being 6 hours, they're now going to be 3 hours because you're visibly and easily moving 2 lanes of traffic instead of 1. And as they come to the end of the road, they'll be able to turn right into the Beach Bend Park or go straight into the racetrack entrance. But it will move people in so much more efficiently and enable us to get those 37,000 people back, to get more of them to come back that had an unpleasant experience the last time. I know people here, had people from the State Highway Department, from our own employment here at the county. One person, including Josh Moore, left his office at, I don't know, let's say 8 o'clock that morning and got there at 10:30. He went basically from downtown Bowling Green to Beach Bend Park, which ordinarily should take you about 8 or 10 minutes if you're driving slowly. But he stopped on Kentucky Street for hours. We had people stopping on Louisville Road all the way back out to I-65 and sitting there for hours. One guy I talked to darted over to try to come in the old Louisville Road. He found himself more bogged down there. The bypass had just stopped, come to a complete stop. It created a lot of traffic concerns by hundreds or thousands of people throughout our community. And I was talking to the sheriff that morning, and I said, look, we got to solve this problem. He had people on the scene, and obviously we figured out we've got to attack this from more than just law enforcement, though. We absolutely need city and county law enforcement involved in moving the traffic, and moving them safely, moving them in an orderly fashion, and moving them out. Possibly we should look at some more, well, and even doing this, we're going to end up with more emphasis on Beach Bend Road as far as law enforcement, so for people speeding up and down the road and screeching their tires. That's unacceptable. I hadn't actually been told that before, but that is absolutely unacceptable, and we're going to really focus on that as well.
Judge, if I may interrupt you.
Yes.
I think that we've heard a lot, and I 100% respect both sides of the issue, but to do nothing is not prudence. And we know, I think most of us who have looked at this project and try to understand it, that it's a multifaceted solution. This is not the catch-all, fix-all for it all. However, it's a necessary first step. So I'm going to make the motion that we accept the bid and move forward.
We have a motion to approve the lowest and best bid from Scotty's Contracting and Stone LLC for widening Beach Bend Road. We have a second. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Gorman. Do we have any additional questions or concerns? Any questions before we take a vote?
Let me say that I've heard from all the Beach Bend folks, and I respect what they're wanting, and one of the big things is the medical issues or having a fire. But in talking to the sheriff and other folks, they have assured me that if there is a medical problem or a fire problem, that they will get the folks in there, and that makes me feel better.
Well, they have the ability to get emergency vehicles up and down the road at any moment, and they all communicate with each other under our new radio system, so that should never be a problem. But I want to emphasize to everyone again, this isn't something that's going to be taking place 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's for a couple, 3 hours, 6 or 8 times a year. So even though the small road improvements that we're approving today are going to be there around the clock, the actual traffic where we're actually changing the flow in a more orderly way is only going to be for 2 or 3 hours for just a limited number of days per year. So I think I've had residents say it only happens 3 times a year. I've had some of the residents say it happens 10 or 12 times a year, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood depending on what the attraction brings in from across the country. But we're proud to have them. I have noticed that there are some people here from the hotel industry and probably some people here from the gas stations and C-stores and so forth. I want to tell you, everybody I talk to who visits Warren County, they don't, and I'm proud of this, usually they hear from the people that they do business with, thank you for being here, we appreciate your business. And I think that's important, whether you're a resident out there in the general area or a business is located in that area. I think it's important that citizens of Warren County have always and continue to make people feel welcome when they come here, and we want to continue to do that. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, no further comments, please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The motion passes, and we are approving this. Let me also tell you that we do have this communications motorsports committee that's going to be meeting before everything, and their charge is not only to make sure that this is approved by everyone in the committee, but it also that they have proper communication with, and make sure law enforcement is included in each one of these meetings, and communicate with the neighbors, the residents along the road, and anyone who's going to be affected by the traffic. That's one of the criticisms that I've gotten over the last few weeks, is that we don't communicate as well as we should. And we utilize the media as well. Make sure that the media knows when people are going to create a big group of people that are coming to Bowling Green, Warren County. Make sure that the media is aware and that they can distribute the information too, so people know to avoid this section of the bypass if you can go around a different way. Or, it's important that people understand that there's going to be some traffic concerns, and there are going to be law enforcement in those areas, so that they can either avoid them or understand what exactly is going on. And no other questions? Okay, thank you all so much. I appreciate everyone being here. Let me, we'll get to work on this right away so that we can have the construction behind us before the season starts. Okay. Next item on the agenda is to approve second and final reading of Ordinance 1949, authorizing a lighting agreement between Warren Rural Electric Cooperative Corporation and the Summit Section 6. Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Cummings. Discussion or question? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve second and final reading of Ordinance 1950, authorizing a lighting agreement between Warren Rural Electric Cooperative Corporation and Brownstone Farms subdivision.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Gorman. Any other questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to make part of the record a certificate of liability insurance for Clean Harbors Environmental Services, LLC. If there are no objections, this is hereby ordered to be entered into the record. Item number 10 is to approve determination in the amount of $3,875 to C&P Construction Company for stonework and drywall repair to the Justice Center. This is due to a car running into the building. This is paid for by insurance. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the next item is to approve order number 1917, reappointing Steve Speakman and David Souders, and appointing Eric Gill to the Contractors Licensing Board.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Cummings. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to make part of the record the recommended order for the Warren County, Kentucky General Obligation Lease Agreement with the Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. That, since this does have to do with our financing, I need a motion to approve. Motion by Squire Young, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next item is to approve the 211 report for October 2019. Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Gorman. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we need to grant Judge Executive Authority to sign Emergency Management Assistance Program Grant. Have a motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Young. Discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes,
Esquire
ma'am.
Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes,
Esquire
ma'am.
Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Item number 15 is to approve the first quarter financial report for the Hadley Volunteer Fire Department. Motion by Squire Young,
Second.
second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion, question? Being none, please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes,
Esquire
ma'am.
Young.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve the memorandum of understanding for the Warren County Sheriff's Office to utilize the Commonwealth Office of Technology's Rate Services Program.
So moved.
Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Young. Discussion, questions?
Brett, is this what you talked to us the other day about? Yes, sir. That's what, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is to make part of the record the 2020 Illegal Open Dump Cleanup Program Grant. Have a motion to,
We didn't vote on the last one, so.
pardon me?
We didn't vote on the last one.
Oh, we better do that. It's moving too fast.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire
Yes,
Lawrence.
ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
He's got the same stuff California's got.
Make part of the record of the 2020 Illegal Open Dump Cleanup Program Grant application.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Gorman. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes,
Esquire
ma'am.
Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Tim. Next item is to approve Order 1918 surplusing 10 vehicles and 1 motorhome for the Warren County Sheriff's Office and grant Judge Executive Authority to sign all paperwork.
So moved.
Motion by Squire Gorman, second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna quit voting.
Next item is to approve determination in the amount of $1,525 to Patterson and Westbrook for the electrical, let's see here. electrical power installation of the outdoor warning siren at Mount Pleasant Church on Highway 185. 3 quotes were requested, only 2 received, and this is the lowest and best quote. Motion by, who was it, Squire Young? Second, Squire Cummings. Discussion, questions? Okay. Let's call it.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Next item is to approve budget transfers for Warren County.
So moved.
Motion by Squire Payne, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne. Esquire
ma'am.
Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes,
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
The next item is to approve termination in the amount of $1,020 for each, total of $2,040 to Adorama Camera Store for the purchase of 2 Canon XA11 camcorders for the Warren County Drug Task Force, no cost to the Warren County, paid by Appalachia HIDA funds, and there were 3 quotes listed. This was the lowest and best quote. Okay, motion by Squire Gorman, second by Squire Payne. Discussion, questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we need to approve Order 1919, surplusing 13 vehicles for the Warren County Drug Task Force, and grant Judge Executive authority to sign all paperwork. These vehicles are from criminal investigations and forfeited to the Warren County Drug Task Force by and under the authority of the Warren Circuit Court in compliance with KRS 218A420. Motion by Squire Young. Second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions?
Are these all vehicles we confiscated through forfeiture, or what are these?
7 of these vehicles are those that we purchased with, I know I've talked to you all about it before, where we purchase at a very reduced rate on state contract, keep them 2 to 3 years and sell them, which is much cheaper than leasing on our part, but we have some advantages that many other county departments don't. I'm not saying that works for everybody, but it does for us. And I was also going to mention, while I had the microphone a minute, we're tentatively set for December the 5th out in front of the courthouse, and we're going to sell some of the sheriff's vehicles in this auction also. And every time I can, I have to shout out at Joe Houchins, who has been doing this for us for over 20 years and never charges us a thing. He sees it as his civic duty, and we certainly appreciate all the years Joe has worked for us and saved us thousands of dollars.
He truly has.
In doing that.
What time?
1 o'clock, I believe. That's the tentative thing. We're still ironing that out, but we'll keep you updated on that. But for right now, we were going to do it December the 6th when you have your Christmas open house, but we decided that might get complicated. So but we might have a bigger crowd. But anyway, we'll go with the 5th.
All right.
Okay.
Any questions, Mr. Loving? Okay.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings. Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next item is to grant Stormwater Management Authority to reimburse the City County Planning Commission an amount not to exceed $24,500 for a portion of the salary of a GIS technician.
So moved.
Motion by Squire Payne and second by Squire Gorman. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne. Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings. Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Lawrence. Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the next item is to approve Resolution 1920, a resolution of the County of Warren, Kentucky, approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the County of Warren, Kentucky, and other parties thereto, and authorizing the execution of the interlocal cooperation agreement. This is between all 10 Brad counties. Motion by Squire Gorman, second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Lawrence. Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next item is to approve easement between Warren County and Warren County Water District being located near the city of Smiths Grove, Kentucky, being a portion of Lot 1 of Fraser White Minor Subdivision.
So moved.
Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Young. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve the claims. Will the treasurer please present the claims to the court?
General Fund, $5,044,667. Road Fund, $94,077. Jail Fund, $435,695. And Stormwater Fund, $16,298. Be happy to answer any questions.
Motion by Squire Young to approve claims as submitted, second by Squire Cummings. Discussion or questions? Being none, please call the roll.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Abstain.
Okay, because of an event going on at the Housing Authority, we're not going to be able to have the closed session discussion. So I know that breaks y'all's heart, but anyway, we'll do that the next meeting. Any of those people any of you all who aren't going to the Housing Authority event, if you'd like to meet, I know Chris Comer would like to kind of give you an update on no more than a couple of you, but he'd like to give you an update on what's going on with the tennis courts, and I know there've been 2 or 3 questions, and he can kind of update you. We'll look at that at another time, and we'll get back to the closed session item at another time as well. I don't know if you all are aware of, I don't know how many of you are aware of the event at the Housing Authority, but it's Secretary of HUD, Ben Carson, is going to be there today. So if you'd like to meet him, that's a good opportunity. It's 11. Sheriff Hightower, do you have anything to bring to our attention? Thank you very much. And thank you for your work and working with residents and promoters of Beach Bend Park and the Chamber and the Tourist Commission as well. Miss Yates, come forward.
We've been allowed to certify our election. Yesterday, I know everyone knew about the recanvass. Everything went great here in Warren County, as we had expected it to. But I did want to thank a few people that allow this the logistical part, for it to happen for our office. Of course, Jerry, and I understand he's under the weather, and we wish him well, but Jerry and Chad are so instrumental in getting everything done. Chris Coomer was out at 4:30 on election morning helping us down here, so we couldn't do this without their help. So I definitely want to give a heartfelt thank you to all involved on that, and I hope Jerry feels better.
Thank
And
you.
that's-
I do too. And I want to thank everybody in every department. We're very fortunate that all the department heads of every department are so cooperative with everyone else in county government, and it's a real pleasure to work with all of them, not only on your initiative here, but on everything that happens every day.
Exactly. They drop everything and try to help everyone
Yeah.
as best they can, and that's great that everybody works together. And I would like to thank the sheriff for being available yesterday for us with the county board doing the recanvass, so we took up quite a bit of his time as well. So thank you, everyone that helped out.
Thank you. I understand y'all did find one vote that you forgot to report, right?
It's not you.
Casey County.
No?
It was done in Casey County.
In Casey County, there was one. I got you.
A
Okay.
little over a million votes, over a million votes won.
That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Mr. Harmon couldn't be with us today. They're doing some work down there that really involved everybody, and all hands on deck, so he had to skip on us today. But I don't know if he's still mad about me calling him Mr. Starman, Jailer Starman before, but anyway, I know he's busy, and we appreciate him always being here, and we appreciate the fine work he does down at the jail. Mr. Comer.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Young, for those of you who aren't aware, is in the hospital, and he's doing pretty well, but he's unable to be with us today, and we sure do miss him, and we hope that he's recovering well, and look forward to seeing him maybe next week. Mr. Pearson. Mr. Branstetter. Glad to have you back with us this week. Mr. Appling. Okay. Ms. Peterson. Good to see you, Ben. Ms. Alexiff.
I want to say something as a private citizen, and that is just, I work in the McNeil precinct.
Would you come forward to the microphone?
I work the McNeil precinct, and I just want to say that the clerk's office, everyone who works on that, it is an outstanding and very organized election process in general. So I think we should give her a round of applause for the fact that there was no change.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Did a great job. It does. Mr. Markram. Chief. Anyone else here? How are you doing, Sarah? Good to see you. I'm glad to see you here today.
I will be very brief. I just want to remind everyone that the Sophie Ice Rink opens tonight. Thank you all again for allowing this fun event to happen in Warren County. We're really grateful for the sponsor, Weisman Orthodontics, and all of the sponsors. There's lots of great events this year. Good partnership with Warren County Public Library for story time and fun events. Everyone got a poster. You can find any more information on SokiEice.com or Facebook, and we'll see you all at 4 tonight and anytime
Starts
throughout
tonight
the
at
season.
what time?
4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Yes, sir.
4 p.m. tonight, the Soki Ice Rink will be open for business throughout the holidays. And
Officially Christmas.
thank you for your hard work on this.
You're welcome.
This is...
We have a great team.
This is a little bit more than a lot of work. I know that you all spent a great deal of time planning with the people at Soki and the people at SkyPack and your office. And
Nikki Kohler, Leah Sperlin, the girls at Soki are amazing. They've done a great job.
Yeah. Well, they say the same thing about you, and I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Look forward to it.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Okay. Squire McWhorter, do you have anything you'd like to
Looks
share?
good, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Squire Young?
Thank you, Judge.
Squire Cummings?
Just two quick things. First of all, the annual Boyce Parade is Sunday, December 1st. The parade is at 2 o'clock, 2:30 rather, and hopefully anybody wants to come out and be part of that. Boyce is the center of the earth, if y'all haven't figured that out by now. But we're glad to be out and be part of that. And then the second thing, we're doing a Boyce Community Meet and Greet on Tuesday night, December 3rd at 6 o'clock. This is with the sheriff and I and folks. This is a big meeting because we're going to have folks from NCTC that are going to be there because that's the area that's been designated as the test pilot area. So we're really anxious and glad to be able to do this meeting and have more, and hopefully get everybody in that whole district want to take on that services so it can expand. So
I certainly hope so. RECC and NCTC have been working for many months about putting this partnership together and this specific test area. If people sign up, then they will move to another area and provide the service in another area. And if they if people will sign up, we will cover Warren County.
well, I met with them yesterday, and at this meeting, they should have pricing, tier structures, a lot more additional detailed information. So even the members and folks from Boyce, but if somebody who's in an adjacent area wants to come out and hear more information, it'll be a good time to come out and get that.
Good deal. Squire Payne?
Judge, I'd just like to say, Josh Moore, you did a wonderful job on this road project. I think it wasn't self-explanatory, but you explained it very well. Thank you very much.
Squire Lawrence?
Thank you, Judge.
Squire Gorman?
Thank you, Josh, and thank you for the brevity of your comments as well, Judge.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. He wasn't short today. He wasn't a bit short, was he? I didn't know he could breathe that long.
Ms. Milliken?
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Burrow?
Thank you, Judge.
You don't want to go over it one more time.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Judge.
Ms. Hale?
Thank you, Judge.
There are no other rude comments. Is there anyone here to bring any other business before this body? Thank you. What?
Next meeting is,
Yes.
announce the next meeting is.
Oh, the next fiscal court meeting is Friday, December 6th, 9 a.m. right here. Christmas open house is Friday, December 6th, 2 to 4 right here. Christmas choirs begin singing in, pardon me? You have a motion to adjourn, okay. We're adjourned.